I've cared for seniors who had large, loving families but still felt completely alone. And I've cared for seniors who had no family at all but thrived well into their late 80s because they had something else, something most people overlook until it's too late. I need to tell you about two women I cared for because their stories changed how I think about support in the later years of life. The first was a woman I'll call Margaret. She was 76 when I started working with her. She had 3 children, all living within 20 miles. Good kids. They visited regularly, called often, truly loved their mother. On paper, Margaret had everything she needed. Then she fell and broke her hip. Standard recovery, the doctor said, 6 to 8 weeks. But those weeks showed me something I've seen over and over in my 15 years of doing this work. Her children had to juggle everything. One daughter had 2 kids in middle school and a demanding job. Her son was traveling for work 3 weeks out of 4. The other daughter was dealing with her own health issues. They were stretched impossibly thin, trying to be there for their mother while managing their own lives. I watched Margaret's face when her daughter had to leave early because her son had a soccer game. I saw her hesitate before asking for help getting to the bathroom because she knew her son had already taken time off work. She started saying she was fine when she wasn't. She stopped asking for things she needed. Not because her children didn't care, but because she could see how hard they were trying, and she didn't want to add to their burden. 3 loving children, all doing their best, and Margaret still felt like she was drowning everyone around her. Now let me tell you about Dorothy. She was 73, no children, one nephew who lived in another state and called maybe twice a year. When I started caring for her, I honestly worried. I thought this woman has no one. But Dorothy had something I didn't see at first. She had her walking group that met every morning at the park. She had her neighbor who'd lived next door for 18 years and brought her mail up when it rained. She had her church community. She had a hairdresser she'd been seeing for 25 years who noticed immediately when Dorothy seemed off. When Dorothy needed surgery for a heart valve replacement, I watched something remarkable happen. Different people showed up for different needs. Her walking friend drove her to pre-op appointments. Her neighbor checked on her twice a day and kept her freezer stocked with meals. Someone from church picked up her prescriptions. Her hairdresser came to the house to wash her hair when Dorothy felt well enough to care about that again. No single person was carrying the entire weight. Different people, different roles, all showing up because they genuinely cared. Dorothy recovered beautifully. Margaret recovered too, physically. But the emotional weight of those 3 weeks stayed with her in a way I could see. She felt like a burden. Dorothy never did. This is the truth I need you to hear. Family love and practical support are not the same thing. I've watched devoted families get stretched to their breaking point, trying to be everything for someone they love. And I've watched seniors suffer in silence because they don't want to add to their children's already overwhelming lives. If you're a senior watching this, and you've noticed that your kids visit less often than they used to, that phone calls feel rushed, that Sunday dinners became monthly dinners, I want you to know something. Needing more than family doesn't mean your family doesn't love you. It means you're human. It means you need what every person needs, what we all need, more support than any one person or even one family can provide. We've been told family is everything, and family matters deeply. But in my 15 years of caregiving, I've witnessed something different. I've seen that the seniors who do best, who stay healthiest longest, who maintain their independence and their dignity, they're not necessarily the ones with the biggest families or the most devoted children. They're the ones who built something stronger, something I call a web of support, and that's what I want to share with you today. The first pillar of this web of support is something most people completely overlook. It's what I call the daily touch point, and it doesn't have to be family. In fact, sometimes it works better when it's not. Let me tell you about a man I cared for. I'll call him Mr. Chen. He was 81 when I started working with him, a widower living alone in a small apartment. Every single morning at 7:30, Mr. Chen walked 3 blocks to the same diner. He ordered the same thing: 2 eggs over easy, wheat toast, coffee black. He sat at the same booth by the window. The server there, a woman named Maria, she knew him, knew his order before he said it, knew he liked the sports section of the newspaper, knew that when he was quiet, something was bothering him. She'd worked that morning shift for 6 years. She saw Mr. Chen 5 days a week, sometimes 6. His son called every Sunday. Dutiful call. How are you doing, Dad? Everything okay? Yes, fine, son. How are the kids? The call lasted maybe 10 minutes. His son lived 2 hours away, visited once a month, sometimes less. Good man. Busy life, doing his best. One Tuesday morning, Mr. Chen didn't show up at the diner. Maria noticed immediately. By 8 o'clock, she was worried. By 8:30, she called me. I had given her my number months earlier, told her she was seeing him more than anyone else, asked her to let me know if anything seemed off. I went to his apartment, found him on the bathroom floor. He'd fallen during the night, couldn't get up, had been there for almost 9 hours. He was dehydrated, confused, but okay. We got him to the hospital. He recovered fully. His son was devastated when I called him. He kept saying, I just talked to him on Sunday. He seemed fine, and he had seemed fine on Sunday, because nothing had happened yet on Sunday. But Maria, the diner server, she noticed within 90 minutes. Not because she loved Mr. Chen more than his son did, but because she saw him every single day. She knew his pattern. When the pattern broke, she caught it immediately. This is what daily touchpoints do. They create a baseline. When something changes, it's visible right away. I've watched people decline for weeks before family noticed, because family sees them occasionally, and the decline happens gradually between visits. But daily touchpoints catch changes within days, sometimes hours. And here's what most people don't realize. These touchpoints don't have to be intimate or deep. They don't have to be best friends or even friends at all. They just have to be consistent and observant. Your mail carrier who notices when 3 days of mail pile up in your box. Your neighbor who sees that your car hasn't moved all week when you usually run errands every other day. The dog walker who passes your house at the same time every morning and realizes your porch light has been on for 48 hours straight. The pharmacy tech who knows you pick up your prescriptions on the 15th of every month and gets concerned when you don't show up. These aren't people prying into your business. These are people who see you as part of their daily rhythm. And when that rhythm breaks, they notice. Mr. Chen's son felt terrible. He thought he should have known somehow. But how could he? He wasn't there. And I told him what I'm telling you now. Your parent needs eyes on them more than once a week. Not surveillance. Not someone watching their every move. Just someone who sees them regularly enough to notice when something's different. If you're watching this and you live alone, or if you're watching this about someone who lives alone, this is the most important thing you can do. Establish one daily touch point outside of family. Just one. Go to the same coffee shop at the same time. Chat with the same cashier at the grocery store you visit twice a week. Wave to the neighbor who's always outside watering plants in the evening. Join a walking group that meets every morning. Go to the senior center for lunch on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It doesn't have to be profound. It just has to be regular. Because regular creates pattern, and pattern creates safety. When you're part of someone's daily landscape, they notice when you're missing. And that noticing, that simple awareness, can be the difference between lying on a bathroom floor for 9 hours or 90 minutes. This isn't about replacing family. It's about creating a safety net that exists in the everyday moments when family can't be there. Because no matter how much your children love you, they can't be everywhere. But the diner server can. The mail carrier can. The neighbor can. One daily touch point. That's where this web begins. Now let me tell you about 3 more kinds of support that weave together to create something stronger than any single thread could be. I cared for a woman I'll call Eleanor. She was 79, living in the same house she'd owned for 42 years. Her neighbor, a man in his 50s, took her trash bins to the curb every Monday night and brought them back up Tuesday afternoon. He did this for 6 years, never once asked for anything, never made it feel like charity, just did it, the way you'd water your own plants. Eleanor's daughter lived out of state, called weekly, visited twice a year. Good relationship. But the daughter had no idea about the trash bins until I mentioned it one day. She got emotional. She said, I didn't even know Mom needed help with that. And I told her what I'm telling you. It wasn't about need. It was about someone being there, doing a small thing consistently, making life a little easier without fanfare or fuss. This is what I call practical support networks. The people who help with specific tasks without emotional complexity. Your neighbor who brings in packages when you're not home, the teenager down the street who shovels your walk after snow, the friend from church who gives you rides to appointments because they're going that direction anyway. The pharmacy that delivers your prescriptions so you don't have to drive. These aren't big gestures. They're small, regular acts that keep daily life manageable. And here's what makes them powerful. There's no guilt attached. You're not calling your daughter at work to ask her to leave early and bring in your trash bins. You're not burdening your son who already has too much on his plate. The help just happens quietly, as part of the normal rhythm of community. But there's another kind of support that matters just as much. I've sat in on a widows group at a senior center where I had a client. 6 women, all in their 70s and 80s, meeting every Thursday morning. They talked about grief in ways I'd never heard before. The loneliness of cooking for one, the strange relief mixed with guilt, the anger that surprised them, the dreams where their husbands were still alive. Their children meant well, but they wanted to fix it. They wanted mom to feel better, to move on, to stop being sad. But these women, they just let each other feel what they felt. No timeline, no pressure, just understanding from people who knew exactly what they were going through. This is peer community, other seniors who get it in ways family cannot. They understand what it's like when your body doesn't do what it used to. They know the frustration of doctors who don't listen. They've navigated Medicare, fought with insurance companies, dealt with medications that cause more problems than they solve. They speak the same language because they're living the same life. Your 40-year-old daughter loves you deeply, but she cannot truly understand what it feels like to be 75. She tries, she cares, but she doesn't know. Other 75-year-olds do. Now, let me tell you about Robert. I cared for him for 3 years, 84 when I started. His daughter visited once a month, sometimes twice, always on weekends. She thought he was doing great. Sharp as ever, she'd say. But his doctor, Dr. Williams, had been seeing Robert for 23 years. Every 3 months, same appointment. And Dr. Williams noticed things. The slight hesitation before Robert answered questions. The way he started bringing notes to appointments because he was forgetting things he wanted to ask. Small cognitive changes that were easy to miss if you didn't have decades of baseline to compare against. Dr. Williams mentioned it to me, asked if I was seeing the same patterns. I was. We talked to Robert together gently, started some interventions early. By the time his daughter noticed anything, we'd already been working on it for 8 months. This is the third pillar, professional relationships that feel personal. Your longtime doctor, your physical therapist who's been working with you for years, your pharmacist who knows your medications by heart. Even caregivers like me, we're paid, yes, but we also genuinely care. And sometimes that professional boundary actually makes it easier to be honest. You might not tell your daughter that you're struggling with depression because you don't want to worry her, but you might tell your doctor. You might not admit to your son that you fell last week, but you might tell your physical therapist. There's less emotional weight in professional relationships, less fear of burdening someone you love. Here's what I need you to understand. Your family can love you deeply and still miss things. That's not their fault. It's not your fault. It's just the reality of not being there every day, of seeing you through the lens of who you've always been instead of who you're becoming. This is why you need multiple sets of eyes. The neighbor who sees you daily, the peer who understands what you're going through, the professional who's known you long enough to notice subtle changes. Each person sees you from a different angle. Together, they create a complete picture. When your support system depends entirely on one person or even one family, you're putting all your weight on a single thread. And I've watched what happens when that thread breaks. When the devoted daughter gets sick herself. when the dutiful son has to move for work, when the loving spouse passes away. The whole system collapses. But a web doesn't collapse when one thread breaks. That's the whole point of a web. Multiple connections, multiple support points. If one fails, the others hold. The last two pillars might surprise you because they're not about getting help at all. They're about giving it, and about connection that doesn't require leaving your house. I cared for a man I'll call Harold. He was 83 when I started working with him. Twice a week, he volunteered at the local library. He shelved books, helped people find things, chatted with the regulars who came in. It wasn't physically demanding. It wasn't even particularly important in the grand scheme of things. But Harold loved it. The librarians knew him. The patrons knew him. He had stories about the woman who came in every Tuesday for romance novels, the college student writing a thesis on local history, the retired teacher who used the computers. Harold wasn't just passing time. He had a role. He mattered to people. They expected him. I watched Harold stay sharp well into his late 80s. His memory, his engagement, his sense of humor, all stayed strong longer than I've seen in most people his age. And I don't think that was an accident. Purpose is preventive medicine. When you have a reason to get up, to get dressed, to show up somewhere, your brain stays active, your body stays moving, you stay connected to the world in a way that goes beyond just receiving care. This is the fifth pillar. Purpose-driven connections. Relationships built around shared meaning, not just proximity. It's the volunteer work, the book club, the garden club, the community center activities. It's not just about filling time. It's about mattering, about contributing, about being part of something that would miss you if you weren't there. Now, the sixth pillar is one I see a lot of resistance to: technology. I know. You might be thinking, I don't do computers. I don't understand social media. That's for young people. But hear me out. I've watched seniors who live alone connect daily with old friends through video calls. I've seen online support groups for specific health conditions where people share information their doctors never mentioned. I've watched Facebook groups bring together people with shared interests who would never have found each other otherwise. There's a woman I cared for whose best friend moved to another state. They'd been friends for 57 years. Before video calls, they talked on the phone once a week, maybe. Now they have coffee together 3 mornings a week. Same time, same virtual table. They see each other's faces. They show each other things. It's not the same as being in the same room, but it's so much more than a phone call. I'm not saying you need to become a tech expert. I'm saying there are tools now that can connect you to people and resources that geography used to keep out of reach. And I've seen them give isolated seniors something I didn't think was possible: daily connection that doesn't depend on anyone being able to physically show up. Now, here's what I need to tell you. You can build this, but you need to start now. Not when you need it. Now. I cared for 2 people around the same age. I'll call them Mrs. Anderson and Mr. Peterson. Mrs. Anderson was 72 when she moved to a new city to be closer to her daughter. She didn't wait. Within 3 months, she'd joined a walking group, started volunteering at a food bank, befriended her neighbors, and signed up for a pottery class at the senior center. By the time I met her at 78, she had a web of support so strong that when her daughter had to travel for work, Mrs. Anderson barely noticed. She thrived. Mr. Peterson waited. He was fine on his own, he said. Independent, didn't need people. Then at 85, he had a health crisis. Suddenly, he needed everything: help with groceries, rides to appointments, someone to check on him. He tried to build relationships then from his recovery bed, and it was so much harder. People didn't know him yet. He felt like he was asking strangers for favors. The isolation made his recovery slower. The loneliness made everything worse. Don't wait until you need help to start building these connections. Build them while you're still strong. Build them while you can give as much as you receive. Build them as prevention, not crisis management. Here's how you start. Pick one thing from each category this week. One daily touch point. Go to the same coffee shop at the same time. Chat with the same cashier at the grocery store. Wave to a neighbor. Join one group, book club, walking group, volunteer opportunity, something regular, and cultivate one neighbor relationship. Introduce yourself. Offer to bring in their trash bins. Ask if they need anything next time you're going to the store. Start small. Start now. Because I've seen people in their 70s and 80s create strong support webs from scratch. It takes intention. It takes showing up. But it works. The body wants community. The mind needs purpose. Give them both. Don't wait for family to be everything. Don't wait for crisis to force you to reach out. Build your web now, while you still have the energy and time to make it strong. I need to tell you why this matters so much to me, why I make these videos, why I keep talking about things people don't want to hear. I've held a lot of hands at the end, more than I can count. And the thing that haunts me isn't the pain, though there's been plenty of that. It's the loneliness. I sat with a woman in her final hours, 84 years old, and her last coherent words to me were, "I just didn't want to be alone." She had a son. He loved her. He visited when he could, but he lived 3 states away, had his own family, his own life. And in those final weeks, she was alone more than she was with anyone. I've also watched families crumble under the weight of being someone's only support. Devoted daughters who quit their jobs, lost their marriages, sacrificed their health, trying to be everything for their parents. Sons who drove themselves to exhaustion, shuttling between their own homes and their father's house. People who loved deeply, but couldn't sustain the impossible weight of being one person's entire world. This is what happens when we put all our faith in family being enough. The senior suffers. The family suffers. Everyone carries guilt and exhaustion and the quiet grief of not being able to do more. But I've also witnessed something beautiful, something that gives me hope. I cared for a woman I'll call Ruth. She was 87 when she had a minor stroke. Nothing catastrophic, but she needed help for a few weeks. Within 3 hours of her getting home from the hospital, 5 different people had checked on her. Her neighbor brought soup. Her friend from the community garden called to see what she needed from the store. Someone from her book club arranged a schedule so Ruth wouldn't eat dinner alone for the next 2 weeks. Her pharmacist personally delivered her medications and went over them with her. Her physical therapist, who she'd been seeing for years for her back, stopped by on his way home from work just to make sure she was okay. Not one of them was family. Her only daughter lived overseas. But Ruth was held by a web so strong that she never felt abandoned, never felt like a burden, never questioned whether she'd be okay. That's what this is about. Building something that holds you when you need it. Something that protects both you and your family from the impossible weight of trying to do everything alone. Here's what I need both of you to understand. If you're the senior watching this, building support beyond family isn't betrayal, it's wisdom. It's not saying your children don't love you. It's saying you love them enough to not put your entire well-being on their shoulders. It's giving yourself multiple sources of connection, help, and care so that no single person has to carry it all. And if you're the family member watching this, wanting help doesn't mean you don't love them enough. It means you're human. It means you understand that your parent deserves more support than any one person can provide. Getting other people involved isn't failure. It's smart. It's sustainable. It's actually the most loving thing you can do. Because here's what I've learned. When family isn't your only support, family can be about love instead of obligation. Your visits can be about enjoying each other instead of frantically managing care. Your phone calls can be conversations instead of wellness checks. Your relationship can breathe. This web of support, these 6 pillars, they don't replace family. They protect family. They take pressure off the relationship so it can be what it's meant to be. Connection, joy, love without the crushing weight of being everything to someone. You have time to build this. Even if you're starting from scratch, even if you feel isolated right now, even if you think it's too late, it's not. I've watched people in their 70s and 80s create strong support networks within months. It takes intention. It takes showing up. It takes being willing to both receive and give. But it's possible. Start with one thing this week, one daily touch point, one group, one neighbor. Build gradually. Let the web grow stronger over time. You don't have to do everything at once. You just have to start. And to the families watching, encourage this. Help them find these connections. Drive them to that first book club meeting. Introduce them to the neighbor. Set up the video call with their old friend. Your parent building a support web isn't them needing you less. It's them being held by more. And that's good for everyone. I've spent 15 years in this field because I believe the later years of life can be some of the most meaningful if we approach them with awareness and intention. I've seen too many people lose time they could have had, too much loneliness that didn't have to happen, too many families stretched beyond breaking. You have time, you have options, and you are not alone in figuring this out. Build your web. Let it hold you. Let it protect the people you love from having to be your everything. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. And I'll see you in the next one.